Welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie. Hello, Ollie.
Hello.
Are you trying to be what mood are you trying to be in?
I'm not saying oi oi. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I have to really concentrate.
So the game we're going to be discussing. Well, let me just say what the podcast is, just in case you are new here. If you're not new, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. This is the Bonus Points podcast, where every 2 weeks we pick a game, we both play it, and then we discuss it in depth, and then at the end we rank it against every other game we have played so far. And I think this was technically my choice of game. I think Papers, Please.
I don't remember. Maybe.
One.
I really don't remember at all who picked this. I think I've always wanted to play it. I've never played it before, so...
Yeah, so I was in the same boat as well. So it sounds like, so have you never played it at all then?
No, not even when it came out. I missed the boat.
Okay, cool. So this is us first kind of going into the game, not knowing, I guess, much about it apart from what you kind of just pick up from the general gaming landscape through osmosis of just being around gamers. You kind of end up picking up kind of the broad strokes. So just to get us started, do you want to kind of just read like a summary of what this game is?
Oh, I'd love to, mate. Honestly. Right, here we go. Papers, Please is a puzzle simulation video game created by indie game developer Lucas Pope, developed and published through his production company 3909 LLC. The game was released on 8th of August 2013 for PC and Mac, and on iOS on December 12th, 2014. In Papers, Please, the player takes on the role of a border-crossing immigration officer in the fictional dystopian communist country of... See, what we call it in the country, because I've been playing with my partner and she's been calling it Arstotzka, but I would call it Arstotzka.
I feel like you got to be a bit more confident to go with your spelling.
Okay.
I feel like
I used to work with a lot of Europeans, so like I'm quite good at reading European words.
Yours is probably right, but I think Bridie's is probably just the safest.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bounce back and forth between them.
It's like the whole like Mojang or Mojang thing. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like I'll go with Mojang because otherwise it sounds like I'm trying too hard.
Anyway, country of Arstotzka, which has been and continues to be at political hostilities with its neighbouring countries. The player must review travellers' passports and other supporting paperwork against an ever-growing list of rules using a number of tools and guides. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not everything there is to the game, but that's probably as close as a summary's got to kind of explaining, at least mechanically, essentially everything that the game is doing. Obviously, it says increased complexity, so it's not, the thing that you're doing at the beginning of the game. It does evolve as you go through, but that is really purely what this game is. I mean, there's essentially two screens. There's the screen when you are at the checkpoint and you're checking everybody's papers, and then there's the screen which is kind of the evening screen where you're basically choosing where do you spend the money you made that day. And it's literally just like little tick boxes of food, heat, medicine, or some other few things that come up. And that's really everything that you're doing. You're not walking around, you're not engaging in conversations with people. It's really kind of just back and forth between those two areas, with most of it spent at the checkpoint.
Yeah, and pretty much the only thing you can do is give people things and take things away. So even during conversations, all you're really doing is taking things and giving them back. Like if it's a character who's not trying to get through the gate and is like speaking to you, you're still just doing the same things. But it's a very good mechanic and a very good idea for a game. Like I can see how you could translate that into a game very easily. Like now, when you see it, it seems really obvious when you're looking at it. Yeah,
it's almost like a bit of like spot the difference as well, because it's like really the main thing you're doing is finding discrepancy. So it could be literally someone's passport, their name is Bob, but on their ID it's Sam, and you're like that doesn't match up, and then you point out that they don't match up, and then that kind of starts the conversation, and they might try and justify it or not. And then ultimately you still get to decide, do you want to approve or disapprove them? And I think that's where most of kind of some of the interesting sort of like ethical kind of dilemmas come into, is that you can outright prove like, hey, it's black and white. Your name is Bob here and Sam there. But it never says that, oh, because you found the discrepancy, that means they don't get through. You could still stamp to approve them to go through because they might say something really emotive, or the person before might have told you, oh, let the next person through. And so it always keeps that agency with the player throughout.
Especially because you get 3 chances to fail. Well, you get 2 chances to fail, then they fine you for the 3rd chance. So you always kind of have 2 to play with that are a bit like, I could let people through using these 2. As long as the person doesn't come right at the end of the day, like I might let them through. Sometimes they come right at the end of the day and I'm thinking like, if you came earlier, mate, I would let you in, but I can't afford to now.
But it's always a risk because you might make mistakes because it starts off quite simple where it's like a passport and then like maybe another document, and then eventually we'll add like 3 documents. And by the end, like you're very manually going through all of this. Like you're with your finger or mouse cursor or whatever, you have all of these documents on the screen and kind of not enough space to like really look at them all. And so sometimes it will be like, oh, you want to enter here to like work. It's like, well, you need your passport, you need like your entrance document, you need your work permit, you also need your like fingerprint, like a description card for what you look like, and you're kind of juggling all of these things and making sure all of the numbers line up with them, and it gets quite a lot by the towards the end of the game.
There's that side of it, and then there's also when you need to check something that isn't written down, like you have this manual with you, like a rule book that's like, oh, I'm coming from Skal in Orbistan, and you need to like check to make sure that city actually exists as well, which was like, when I first started playing, that was a thing that tripped me up every single time. It was like, district doesn't match. And to start with, I was like, I don't even know what that means, because I didn't realize that there was like an issuing city on the passport. I was just, for some reason, not even thinking about it. So then, I mean, I just had a piece of paper that had all of them written on in real life, and I just checked that. Because if I was working in there, that's what I would have done. I would have just written them all down and put them on my desk.
And the thing is, because it will keep adding new things that you need to check and new rules, but they don't replace the old one. So that like kind of issuing city is like one of the main things you're doing at the beginning, but that never goes away. But it ends up being that like it's really rare that it won't match up. And so sometimes I'm like, do I bother? Like, because I didn't cheat. I didn't, maybe I should have. I was still like bringing up the book and clicking on the map to go to the place and checking it. And every time I checked in, it did match. I was like, oh, there's a few seconds wasted.
Yes, exactly. Should we
quickly
talk about platforms? Because you played on 2 platforms, didn't you?
Yep.
I did as well. So
okay.
You played on Vita?
So yeah, I started because I was traveling the kind of when we were doing this game, and I was like, oh, that's fine, I'll play on Switch. And I was like, oh, it's not out on Switch. I just assumed it would be out on Switch, but it's not. But then I saw it was out on Vita, and I love the Vita. And like any excuse to use the Vita, I was like, oh, great, I'll play on the Vita. I'm actually more excited about that than playing on the Switch because I get to use the Vita more, and it's my favorite handheld. But then 2 problems. Firstly, is the Vita can't connect to the new AirPods, which I had. It connects to the old ones, which I used to have that broke. Fine. So I didn't even bother checking it because I knew it connects to AirPods. With the new ones, it just doesn't. So I went to play it and I had no sound, and I didn't, want to play it without sound. So that was annoying, so I couldn't play it while traveling. And then I eventually did play, like when I was in my hotel and stuff, and I just found the screen just way too small. Like for one, the normal view, you don't like normally you kind of see everything that you need to see on screen. On Vita, you need to like scroll up and down. So you'd see like the person and then like their desk. And then you'd have to use the analog stick to go down to get to where all the forms are. But then it's using the touchscreen. Like you have to use the touchscreen. Yeah. And like there's a lot of time it'd be like, click like this, like the date on like the passport. And I'm like, my finger is like like several lines of the I kept doing it wrong. And the thing is, the game is really about time. Like you have a set amount of time each day, and the amount of people you process means how much money you end up getting. And so time really matters. And I don't know if they added any leniency in the Vita, but I was just having an awful time. Everyone was sick and hungry and cold in my poor family. And if they all died. I got ending number 2, which is they all died like after about 6 days or something. And so I then switched to my MacBook, my laptop.
Yeah, I got that ending too, so I know how that is. So I played on Mac. All of the video footage of the game you'll see is running on the Mac, but I also played on my iPad. And what was interesting is on the iPad, the upgrade tree is different to the Mac version.
For like upgrading the booth.
Yeah, because on the Mac it's like press tab to get your stamper out or press space to inspect. Obviously on the iPad you don't have those, so instead it's like you can use gestures to like pick up all your documents and pass them and stuff like that, which is actually pretty cool. It's quite a cool difference. Yeah. Although I will admit I did play on easy mode on both because I played on regular difficulty and I was like, do you know what? I'm having negative fun. So I decided I'll just put it on easy, which basically the main difference is you just don't have to worry about time because you always get $20 every day. So even if you process no one, you get $20. So it's like basically food and heat and that's always covered. So instead I'm just paying money for like doing the upgrades, paying rent, and if I'm getting any money from anyone else, deciding whether or not I want to keep it. It just removed the time element, which is good as well because I played through the whole thing with Bryony as well, and she doesn't really play games. But she absolutely loved this. So it's good to like, I could take the pressure off by putting easy mode on. So
yeah, I wonder what you lose. Like it's obviously what you get, what you gain is obvious. But like I wonder, because for a lot of the interesting decisions, the time doesn't matter as much. Like I do know from kind of reading some interviews with Lucas Pope is like he purposefully he wanted it to be like fiddly, the UI.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
like he was like he could have streamlined it. Like the fact that the upgrades is like, as you say, press tab to bring out like the stamps is like, he could have had that from the beginning. He knows that makes it a bit easier, and he didn't. There's such a weird thing to put that behind like. But that'd be like in Dark Souls, you can unlock jumping without needing to sprint first or something. Like,
or
just
rolling
like
in Dead Rising, maybe.
Yeah, that would be lovely. So I stuck with the normal difficulty, and I was stressed by the entire time, and I'm starting to think maybe I should have done easy mode, but I was a little bit worried because even though we're not doing like a formal review because we are critiquing it, like I guess I always worry if I'm not kind of doing that sort of vanilla like experience, am I going to be kind of critiquing it? But maybe that's kind of a foolish mentality.
Yeah, it didn't stop you on Resident Evil, did it? Played that on easy. I remember correctly, and you were like, I've got a million bullets, it's really easy.
No, I started not on easy, and then I changed.
Yeah. So I started this on. I did one run on the standard difficulty and got absolutely obliterated. And then I did another run that I finished on easy, which is on video. Then I've got another run going now, and another one on my iPad. So I've got 2 runs going at the moment as well.
So what do you mean by obviously so one of the things with this game is there's 20 different endings.
Yeah.
That you can get. So it's pretty safe to say this is such a limited game. We're kind of going to be spoiling some of the stuff through it. So even though we're kind of getting to endings quite early, so what do you mean by like what happened?
As in, I saw an ending and was kicked back to the main menu. That wasn't the one I'd already seen before. Okay. I got the ending for taking the EZIC money and them being like, "Why are you so rich?" and then arresting me.
Yeah, because I took the money.
Yeah.
But then, like, I think the thing is it then gave me the option to like upgrade my apartment. And I was like, well, that's going to be a telltale sign. So I didn't upgrade my apartment, and I got away with keeping the money. Like, they took the money away, but I didn't get in trouble. But I had a few days of like heat and food. Overall, I benefited. So I was able to get past that.
Yeah. So the first time when I took the money, it's me and Bronny played together, but we went to the apartment and then we got arrested. That's how I lost that. Second time round, I didn't take the money. And then they came back the next day and they were like, what about 2,000? And I was like, no. No. I rejected it again. So that game's still going at the moment. We'll get back into it in a second, but the furthest I've got, the last day I just got the gun. I don't know if you got further than that or...
Oh yeah. No, I got further too. I get my I'll get my stats up.
Yeah, because I've got like
the final
2 platforms going. I played for about 6 or 7 hours total. but I'm just like a bit all over the place with like my endings and platforms and stuff.
So for my longest day, I played for 3.5 hours, basically 3 hours 24 minutes, and did 198 stamps. And so I got ending 9 of 20. And so I'd had the gun for a while, but then the EZIC people basically came and said like, hey, there's this person in red that you need to kill. Here's the key to like the non-tranquilizer gun.
Yep.
And like we're going to basically cause a distraction, and you need to shoot the person in red who was just in like the crowd.
Oh, cool.
And so that was and I in the end I did do that because I kind of wanted to see how it would play out. Yeah. And so I shot that, and then I went to jail.
Right. Yeah.
That was kind of my ending. But my family were looked after by EZIC. But though I thought was quite interesting though is that EZIC people said that like the next person, like the basically my replacement, isn't like working with them and like isn't taking bribes and isn't on their side. Yeah. So it actually kind of would have probably been better even for the EZIC side for me to have kind of not done that.
So what was your general?
Should we explain what EZIC is?
Yeah,
we've kind of said that a lot.
Let's actually just go back. We've gone right to the end. Okay, so obviously we talked about your stamping cards, your stamping passports, letting people in and out of the country. There are people coming to the booth that aren't good or aren't necessarily bad, but aren't necessarily good. And maybe they don't have all the documentation they need to get in, but they find other ways to try and get into the country, basically. So there's people bribing you, there's people forging documents, and there's this like group called EZIC who are like a rebel group, I think, who basically like think that the country you're representing is like rotten and corrupt from the inside, and they basically keep sending agents into the country to try and like disrupt it, and then it's up to you whether or not you want to let them in or not. And often they'll come into your office and be like, you know, there's another person coming, and when they come in, make sure you let them in, and then they'll leave. So it's like always kind of gives you time to think about it. And yeah, that's basically it. That's basically what EZIC is. I mean, as far as I got, they told me that all of the extremist stuff wasn't them, and their stuff was peaceful. But yeah, that's.
But you don't know that. Like
no,
you just have their word saying that.
Their word for it.
Because the other thing is, there's a lot of terrorist attacks that happen, and like it's funny because it really sets up like everyone can imagine what like a border is like in a place like this, and kind of the sort of. It's all fictional, but it's obviously kind of there's a lot of obvious parallels you could bring, and you can see like you can imagine what it's like and how many guards they have there and how people are like treated, and so you can kind of get like from being right on the front line of it, and you'll be like, oh, there are people doing terrorist attacks and smuggling in money, and like the whole system and everything surrounding is kind of corrupt and bad. Like you could see how in people's minds that would be a justification for like, oh, like we're gonna have to be like really like strict and like have like so much discipline, and like, you know, there's people will, you know, if they're, you know, you might need to like basically almost like strip search them, and you like take pictures of them like completely naked to see if they've got like guns and drugs. And obviously it's like, you know, if you went to a checkpoint and they said to do that, you'd be like, oh, no, that's like against human rights. Like you can't make people strip naked and take pictures of them. Like, of course not. But then it's sort of like, but sometimes they have guns and drugs. And so you sort of like start to see like, oh, so you can see how these systems get to the position that they're in. It's not just like, let's try and be like evil. Yeah,
I think first of all, just quickly, because you mentioned like parallels to reality, one thing I did realize is that the region or district or whatever it is of Grestin is split into East and West, and they're in separate countries. So like that is the level of unrest we're at now, where they've just built a wall through the middle of an existing region, which is basically just like the Berlin Wall, right? And the other thing is with the photos and that is I mean, I don't think this game is saying anything that's like never been said before or you know, really deep to think about, but it does show like, oh, if you do want to get paid, you kind of have to just go along with it. You do have to give up a bit of your morality, like, because you need the money. So it's like, I will put up with this, even though it is very annoying, because I do need that bit of money. But then they kind of add another section to it when there's a guy that's like, if you arrest people, I will pay you $5 for every 2 arrests you make. And that's actually going above and beyond where you're already feeling a little bit like, I don't know if I should be doing this. And they give you a chance to detain people for less and less things. Like, so I had my own thing was like, if your passport is fake, you probably know that. If your documents are fake, you might not know that. So that's where I drew the line. If it's people.
Out of date, you know, like do you detain someone?
No,
for like it being out of date. But yeah, I think it's really the perspective of who you are in this story. Like, there's a lot of games that kind of will be set in this type of thing, but like you're always playing as like the freedom fighter or like the foreign army that's coming in to like save the day. But it's like, no, you are someone who, you know, and it's up to you for how much you kind of agree with what it is and what it's saying. Like, it's entirely in your shoes, but you have a decision where it's like, you know, okay, if I'm going to try and be as pure good as I can be, like my sick son will die. Like, and so it's sort of like you're put into like a lose-lose situation. Like, either you are gonna like chip away at your like morality, you know, or you know your family are going to suffer because of your actions,
and you can other families as well.
Yeah,
because they'll say things like, "Oh, I'm moving in. I've got my documents. My wife's coming in after me. Can you like?" He wanted to say, "Can you buzz her in?" So he's living in a flat. I was like, "Can you let her in?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, I can't let her in because she doesn't have the documents, but I know her husband just went in." So it's like, do I split them up? And then like, if you start to look like you're going to, she's like, "If I go back to the country I came from, they're going to kill me." And it's like, oh. Like, this is the kind of thing that it's constantly doing, like to varying degrees of success. Some of them are just silly or funny. Some of them are like quite horrible. Like, to be honest with you, I did find quite a lot of the, like, I don't know why, but I found quite a lot of the terrorist stuff, like, really shocking. I think it's just because I had no idea it was in the game. So the first time
that first one.
Yeah, I was literally like, oh my God, what have I done? And I don't think it's even you. It's not even, you couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, and the fact that it happens, like, because you get into, like, a bit of a zone, like, here's another day, you're going through it all, and then it just, like, happens, and it's like, the day's ended because of the terrorist attack. You're like, wait, what? Like, I was in the middle of like, so you are from here? You know, I was just in the middle of like, just reading through like these documents, and then suddenly there's, you know, a bomb, and then like suddenly there's more guards the next day.
Yeah. I also think the other thing about like, oh, you know, you bend your morality whatever to get paid, thinking about work and that, is it is really good at emulating being annoyed at work, which I don't know if is good or bad, but it's like someone comes in, they haven't got their permit, and I'm literally like, why haven't you got it? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, or I ask them for it, they get it out of their pocket. I'm like, why didn't you just get it out to start with? Like, I start to get annoyed and I have to think like, oh yeah, these are people that are probably really scared and are like standing at a border crossing with people with guns and like terror attacks. And I'm literally getting annoyed at them.
I know the system so well because I'm doing it every day. Yeah. Like, it's understandable when they need 5 different documents. One might not be right. So I'm curious then, I guess for you and Bryony, like what was your kind of like general ethos? What was your strategy in terms of those kind of like moral situations where it's a little bit gray, or no, it's clear like, oh, I probably should let them in, but then that means that, you know, like I might get in trouble. Like did you kind of have a set plan that you stuck to, or did you kind of change your mind as you went?
Well, when I played, as long as I had a spare, like what they called, like the thing they give you, the permit. Well, when you do something, like citation. As long as I had a spare citation, I'd like let them in. But Bryony was very much like, if it's not on the document, you're not coming in, basically. Because even some of the ones that like you speak to them and they give you a different time or different date or whatever, and they're like, oh, this is wrong. She'd be like, oh, I want to kick them out because I think they've done something. And I'd be like, well, as long as the document is correct, you have to let them in.
Oh, so they say I'm going to stay there for 2 weeks, but it says like a month or something.
And then you ask them again, and they go, oh, no, sorry, I did mean a month. It's like, we do actually have to let them in. But I knew that Bryony would like it because it's like, she works in a very admin-heavy job. And she like studied social policy and stuff like that at uni. So she's like, loves bureaucracy and stuff like that. And I asked her before I came to do this recording, I was like, oh, is there anything you want me to point out? And she was like, oh, just say I love admin. So like she was absolutely loving the game. But yeah, she was like, she basically would work exactly to the book, except for Ezek, that she'd help out, but she'd never take their money. Taking the money was my idea, which got us in trouble. So that was basically her ethos. But mine was like much easier. Like,
I'm just imagining having a long day at work and coming home and then just carrying on, like just for
she
fun.
played for like 2 hours on the iPad. She absolutely loved it. But she was getting really into like role playing. Like she was saying to people like entry is not guaranteed, like out loud. Like
That's great. There's the little speakers that you click on to say like next.
Yeah.
You can also just click on them whenever, and it just like says like things like that.
Yeah, that's a great little touch. That. So anyway, that was my general. Try and be nice, but I mean, in this world, you're gonna get screwed over, aren't you? What about you?
Yeah, I sound more similar to you than Bryony. Like, you know, I mostly try to stick to it, to the rules, but then, you know, every situation, because there's a lot of just new one-off situations, so I'd kind of like assess that almost in like a way I would an RPG like Mass Effect or Baldur's Gate. Is like I'm not someone who goes into being like, I'm going to be the like pure good character or the evil character.
Yeah.
Like I never do that, because I always find, well, I'm not making any decisions then. Like the only decision I'm making is to click on the thing that conforms with my, you know, predetermined morality. I like it when it is a gray and it's sort of like weighing up the two options, and those are the decisions I enjoyed. But I think one of the things I probably got that you didn't was I'm making those decisions with like extreme time pressure.
Yeah,
like
see,
I think back to like Telltale games and like playing them with Kai, and it would be like, who are you going to save? Like Sam or James, and that would be like a 30-minute discussion before we pick one. And you know, I think this could have turned into that way if I was doing easy mode, but because I had that time pressure, like sometimes I'd even like, oh, I want to do this, but I'd mess it up. Like easy would be like, let Stephanie through, and then I'd like go through and I wouldn't let her through, and I was like, oh no, that was Stephanie. I didn't let her through, you know, because I'm like, because I'm rushing, so it's not even like I wasn't even good enough to always do the decision that I wanted to do.
In the that thing when Ezek turn off and they give you that like code breaker thing in the game, really cool, really enjoyed it. In real life, I'd be like, this is the lamest thing I've ever seen. It was like an escape room. Like you lay these two pieces of card and like look through the holes to get the names. Like, why do they operate like that?
It's really off topic, but it makes me laugh. I just played through Black Ops 6.
Yeah.
And it has like, there's like a lot of bits where you're like hacking a computer and it's be like work out the code, and it'll be just like a bunch of numbers in a row for like the word, and then just at the bottom it's just that number with like an alphabet letter underneath it, and it's just lining them up, and it's like I gotta hack into the system, and it's just so literally stupid. That it's like so but like I get it, like it's a fast-paced game. Any more complex would just be annoying, and like if one person gets stuck on the puzzle, they probably have data for like their focus groups for how bad that is. But it's just, it's really reminded me of that.
What did you think about the like gender thing? That it's like your gender's wrong.
Yeah, so like I guess I'll explain how it works in the game. Is there'll be times when, not at the beginning of the game, but later on, where it's sort of like you really got to look at kind of like this, like basically it's like a card to say like this is what their physical appearance was at this time. Does it still match up? So you know they haven't got a fake thing. So it'd be like a little card that might have like their height, their weight, their gender, and like one really random thing that describes them, but it would be different for everyone. It'd be like big mustache or like short curly hair. But
small head was my favorite,
yeah, like but so it's not like you're describing like eye color might have made more sense rather than just pick a random thing. But yeah, on that would be gender. So if you see someone who's sort of like, you know, outwardly appearing as like male, but it says female, like that would be in this, you could flag it as a contradiction. And then that's when in the game it would do the thing where they would have to strip off and it would take pictures. And then, you know, that would be, that would kind of meant to prove either way per se. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that system for the game, considering like its setting, like for like the place it's meant to be, and for like the time period. Like I think it's roughly set in like the 80s, like in this, you know, this kind of dystopian, like Eastern European, like checkpoint. Like I think that's, you know, I'm not saying they have that exact system, but I'm sure that like that sort of scenario has come up a lot. And so, like, I think it's it's kind of meant to make you feel a bit icky carrying it out. And so I think it was probably one of the more effective things, because it was one of the things where if you are just following like the rule book to the rules and like as a regular thing you do, like every time you feel like, oh, I'm like breaking their human rights and their privacy every time I do it. And it's like, it's just my job, just doing my job. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think like there's a few that were like, oh, you'd say, oh, it says here you're a woman. And then they'd be like, what sort of question is that? And I kind of thought like, oh, 2014 or whatever. And that was the end of it. But when it got to the point where it was like, oh yeah, you can like detain them, I was a bit like, oh, this is now getting a bit like, this is like not fun anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it got to the stage, it doesn't happen in very many of the games that we play, but it gets to the stage where like I would then be worried about who I recommend the game to, because it's like, I think it's that extreme enough that it's like, and it's that big of a part of it that it's either it's aged badly or it's even more effective, depending on how you look at it, I guess. But I feel like it does. At the time, it was probably 2014. It was different, but now it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's an issue that you don't need to. It would work without it, I
mean, I think I guess the thing is, because they have the whole contraband system and like, are you sneaking in like weapons or drugs? Like they could have done the whole you have to strip off and we take pictures of you thing. They could have had that, which I think is one of the most effective things, without also having the gender things. But like because it's trying to be of a certain place and a time period, so I almost feel like it would be disingenuous for them to like I feel like that is if you're having a card that is describing someone's visual like appearance, I feel like that would be included in it.
Yeah. I think so.
I don't think it's a thing that's aged poorly, because it's set in a fictional place in a different time.
Course,
it's the sort of thing that you might warn certain people, like, hey, just to let you know, like it has this in the game, like like that might be upsetting to you. Like I think it's that sort of thing, but I don't think it's the sort of thing where it's like, oh god, that's aged poorly, hasn't it? Like I don't.
Yeah,
think
it was
it's
always
that kind
bad.
of
I don't think it was ever good. There was never like, oh, that's a really good. That's a really good thing. I do have another negative as well, which is I feel like generally when I was playing this game, I was more using like my job brain than my having fun brain. I like wasn't really getting lost in like, I'm playing a game and relaxing, because I was like focusing on it as if it was a job. And I feel like just maybe that analytical side of it, I couldn't actually detach like processing to be like, oh, it's a fun game. Instead, the whole time I was like feeling like I'm at work and like literally looking at the real life clock, like, because I was on my lunch breaks. I was like, oh, I can clock out at 2. It's like, what am I talking about?
I mean, that could be also considered a success. Like that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like you could say, oh, it's a negative for like, how fun was it? Did I have, more fun with this or Ridge Racer? But like, I don't know if I don't think the goal was fully for it to be a fun game.
Oh,
no. I think, I'm making assumptions here, but I think Lucas Pope probably wanted it to feel like work and a bit of a slog, and to have that sort of mundanity to it as well.
Yeah,
so I don't.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
like with the music and the atmosphere and the graphics, like that's fully what they're going for. It does surprise me that it has an endless mode. Like as the option is like, oh, if you want to just do it for fun, you can. Which seems crazy to me that you'd be like, I'm just gonna, mess around on a bit of Papers, Please, but
they saw you coming, Bryony. They saw you coming. You kind of said about it briefly. Just kind of the I guess the atmosphere the game creates with kind of the visuals and all of the music. First of all, 10 out of 10 title sequence. Like I would never skip it.
Yeah,
I'd always let that fully play out. Where I think we'd probably have to just cut to a full clip of it, even without us talking over it. Just to do that because, yeah, amazing title sequence. And then in the game, there's mostly no music for the general gameplay. It's really kind of just like the barks that you hear kind of like over the speakers, sometimes like the crowd noise and that. Like it's pretty quiet, which I think is probably quite neat. I wonder if they experimented with music. I know that in some games, like if you're in a puzzle, they take away music or really quieten the music because sometimes it's always like, you know, when you're like lost with the sat nav and you turn the radio down because you need to concentrate.
Yeah,
like,
you need to play some tabs.
So I think that's really intentional, but then it will kind of bring back the music, like when you kind of in between, which kind of sets you back up. But yeah, I think the graphics I think are great, and I think it just creates like a really unique atmosphere.
Yeah, I really liked the sounds of people talking. Like the little sounds that you do get were really effective. They did actually remind me of Killer 7. Quite a lot of them sounded like that, like the whispering, like where it's like not English either. But it's like kind of all different words maybe you're picking up, but really it's just like sounds. I thought it was really cool, really effective, and also it means it's like not set in any country because it's obviously not any real language, which adds to that, which is pretty cool. Generally good audio, doesn't overdo it really. Was there the mechanics that you like couldn't figure out how to use them or?
There was one that I did. Oh yeah, it was when it was talking about the stamps for like the emblems.
Oh yeah.
When that was first introduced, I didn't realize, like I thought it was talking about the emblems on the front of the passports.
Oh yeah.
You know, 'cause there's a different.
Yeah.
I thought it was talking about that, but it was talking about something else that was added into the rule book that I didn't find. So I Googled it and then I realized I was halfway through a day and I kept failing it. And I was like, well, what is this thing then? So I was like, quickly quit out so it doesn't save and restart and find out what that was.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed a tutorial, but the fingerprints took me a really long time to figure out. I didn't realize, you know, when you give them the slip of paper and then it comes up on the bottom of the screen, I thought that was them like giving me the paper back. And it would say on it, like with their fingerprints, and it would say like, Joe Garrett, no known alias. And I'd be like, well, then it must be this person then. I didn't realize I could take
you didn't
fingerprints
compare
off them and compare them for like a run and a half. I didn't realize that. So I was like, I'm just guessing 50-50 whether or not I should let them in. And then, the fact that you can even just compare the fingerprints as well made it even easier because you can put them both as discrepancies. So I don't know how I missed all of that, but I just did. I guess I'm an idiot. Doesn't read tutorials properly.
So one other thing that I didn't mention till now, because I didn't want to lead with this, is so I really struggled with this game and got really stressed with it. And I didn't know why. And I've played it once with Kai and like they were doing much better at it than me and spotting things better than me. And I was like why like I was kind of just trying to like read through it and like my eyes were kind of just like kind of almost glazing over and I was like, I can't remember any of these codes or names. And I was like, oh, it's my dyslexia.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is like, oh my God, like this is why I'm struggling. So like, it's all of like the things that I struggle with dyslexia is all of like the key skills you need in this game.
Yeah,
and so
true.
I looked it up. And I'm like not the only one. There's like articles about it, like from other dyslexic people, like talking about like, hey, this game seems like really cool, blah, 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 blah. Like, but I only got to do 2 missions of it and I realized that I couldn't. And like, there's no way around it. And so like, I really like, I tried so hard, but I really struggled through it. And I think that like I was able to get like a decent way through the game, but I always was struggling. So it wasn't so much for me that I couldn't progress. It was much more that like I think it just really hindered my enjoyment because like scanning through the document, like say if I see like the code for like the sort code or whatever for the passport and I got to compare it, is like I couldn't like glance at it or have a quick read and then compare it. I'm like literally almost going like letter by letter or being like, eventually I'll be like, you know, if the first 2 letters are the same, that will do because like if I have to go through and like compare it exactly, like that is going to take me like way too long, and I'm going to like run out of time. And so the whole time, like for most of the time, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just thinking that like, oh, this is just, it's stressful. The time pressure, everyone's like this. I was like, oh no, like it's especially more difficult for me. And then kind of once I realized that, I kind of was like very conscious of it and a little bit annoyed by it. And obviously, not blaming the game at all here. Like, I'm not saying that this game shouldn't exist because of it. You know, like I think,
of course,
you know, for a lot of people, it's absolutely fine. But that was kind of something that kind of negatively affect kind of my entire experience of this game.
No, that sucks. That's fair enough, and is bad. I think they don't use a great font for any of the writing, which is probably part of the point. And like dyslexic fonts do exist, so they could swap it in so you could do it. Maybe it's easy mode is what you needed, because it gets rid of the time pressure.
Yeah.
But then I guess it's just not fun, is it? Like if you're struggling to read it, it's not fun. Doing it for longer doesn't make it more fun.
No, it would have. Yeah, it would. Yeah, I think it. The time it would have definitely released some stress, and I think if I was going to reverse time, I would have just become the little Joe on my shoulder and said, just do easy mode.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it'll be fine. Like I think I should have done easy mode, but kind of the reason I kind of explained like earlier why I didn't do easy mode. But yeah, it wouldn't have helped the process of what I'm doing. It's just something that like I always struggle with everything anyway, and then having to do that in the game, and I was doing it with the time pressure. It was annoying because I really loved a lot of the rest of the game, and like anytime it kind of got to those interesting like moral conundrums, or when Ezek showed up, or like when one of the other guards shows up and he's like, oh, I'm going to look after you. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
no one's nice. Like, why? You know, like all of that stuff, like I really loved, but then just what I would rarely do more than like 2 days in a row. Like that was kind of my max. And then I'd feel like I just got, like, I couldn't do another one. I'd just have to turn it off. And that's not, 2 days in a row is not that long, you know, it's like maybe 15 minutes at most. And then that would be like enough. And I'd be like, oh, I'm like kind of clouding over. Like I can't do another day. And so I had to do this game in like really short bursts, which was a shame. I didn't get into that flow ever.
Yeah. That's a real shame. I'm surprised we didn't think of that when we picked it.
It was funny because I was like thinking about it, then like I googled it like to see if anyone else is having that problem, and like loads of people have been, like obviously. And then like I mentioned it to Kai, and I was like, well, yeah, obviously. Like, what did you think? I was like, oh yeah, it's obvious now. But I don't think I realized. I thought this game, from what I'd picked up through from the gaming membrane, we're all connected. I thought it was much more about someone kind of coming up, telling you a story, and like you looking at the passport and then you approving or disapproving them. I thought it was I thought it was much more of a yes/no thing. I didn't realize how much of it was like going through documents and going through pages of the book and like lining up codes. Like I didn't realize that was such, like that's like the main focus of the game, and then it ends with just the yes/no stamp.
I also didn't realize that it would have all the stuff like you're actually affecting the news, where you have like the newspaper comes in and the people you're letting in is making a huge difference. I didn't realize any of that was going to be in it either. So that was like, I don't know, it's
the
cool.
news, but all the headlines care about is the border. Nothing else going on. It's really all about.
Well, there's that guy, isn't there? He's like the track star who like killed his wife or something, and you can catch him when he comes in.
Yeah.
So do you think, just to go back to what you were saying about dyslexia, then do you think? I mean, how's this going to affect? It must have affected your enjoyment quite a lot of the game.
Yeah, I think that because it's hard. So for the list, it's always about how much we enjoyed the game, and like this feels like it feels especially harsh on the game to give it negative because of that. But then the whole point is like, you know, it's not the ranked list of the best games, it's for how much we enjoyed them. So yeah, I'm kind of not sure exactly how we're going to end up doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like I think, you know, if I was colorblind and we played Buster Move, I'd be like, yeah, this is terrible. Like, because things can be done to make these things easier, you know, for everyone.
Yeah, but I feel like the core mechanic would have, it's like, you know, doing a rhythm game and like, oh, how can you make it like for deaf people?
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
but
well,
even
really...
no. I'd be saying like they could do like legible font They could easily do an overlay that's like.
Oh yeah, no, they could have made it better, but like it's still like for the very core of what the game is requires you to, they would have to change fundamentally what the whole game is about in such a way that I don't think there would be like a way, they could have made it more friendly, to people, with learning difficulties, but like I think at a certain point it's like, no, this for the game to be what it is, there's just some people that they're going to struggle with it too much. In the same ways some games will be really fast and need really fast-paced inputs that other people won't be able to. Like I think that like obviously we want gaming to be as inclusive as possible, but like I think you can go too far with that and it can be too too creatively restrictive. Because there's like, the horror film, some people are too scared of spiders, so don't put spiders in. You kind of get too far.
I know what you're saying, but I do think the game could do more. It could definitely do more without losing its way. But I guess maybe at the time it was not really thought about as much. And I don't think, I read, this is completely anecdotal because I read it online somewhere. I don't think Lucas Pope wants to go back to Papers, Please ever again. So I don't think it's had an update for a long time. Yeah.
Because I think that's why it's not on Switch or anything either. It was, I think in 2022, like they updated some of like the PC version, I think. Also worth mentioning, the game's a huge hit. It's sold over 5 million copies. Yeah,
it's massive.
Which is funny because he, so Lucas Pope used to work at Naughty Dog. He left after Uncharted 2 and he was kind of traveling a lot. Just in his own life around Asia, and so he was kind of going through a lot of kind of these sorts of checkpoints. Probably not exactly this sort of type, but enough to get him kind of thinking about like what is that like, and so that was kind of the inspiration. But he was going to do it as just a small project and just work on it for a couple weeks, and then move on to a commercially viable game, and then it ended up turning into a project that still only took him 9 months. So still like very, very quick. But it was meant to be like this little creative experiment that he wanted to do and then move on to something else. And so I think he kind of worked on it for his 9 months, got his creative satisfaction, released it. It kind of grew beyond him and got its own life. And so he was kind of done with it, but like the community wasn't. I think that's sort of the way it played out.
Have you played any of his other games?
No. So I looked, well, I guess if you ignore Naughty Dog, I guess.
Yeah.
I did see there was the game he released before this. You might know the name, the newspaper one.
Something of Republia. Set in Republia from this game.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. Something of Republia.
It's relatively similar, but it's all about like you kind of choose, like there'll be news and you kind of choose the headlines, and it's all about how that kind of affects the narrative by just the way the story is told, which seemed quite interesting.
I played Helsing's Fire quite a lot, but I didn't. It's nothing like this at all. It's like a game where it's like a top-down game, and you have a torch and you're kind of walking and like casting shadows. And like, I think you're trying to like stay in shadow and like avoid people or something. It's an iOS game. I played that, came out when I was at uni, and we used to play a lot of iOS games because I did game design. And we did that one at some point on the course or something.
And then there's the boat game, like the more recent one.
What, Oberdin?
Obra Dinn? Yeah, that's him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've not played that either. But I'm more curious. I would want to play it now, I think. After playing this.
Would you want to do it in the future?
What I've heard about it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. What else have we got? I don't really have anything else to say on it. I will say I generally enjoyed my time with it, but there is a little part of me that's like, because I put it on easy, would I actually like the proper game, or did I just enjoy hanging out with my fiance and playing this game more than the actual game that was designed, which I kind of sidestepped? Have you got any, before I do questions, have you got any final things?
No, let's go. Let's hear what the community thinks.
Okay, Wolfington on our Discord said, "Did you have a favourite event / thing that happened?" I've been saving this one up because I wanted to say it now.
Okay, you go first then.
When the bomb comes through the gate, comes through the chute at your office. Did you get that one?
Wait, what happened?
A guy comes in and he's like,
Oh, and you have to
he
disarm
puts a
it.
bomb through. I was like,
Yeah.
He's just so used to passports. There must have been hundreds come in at that point. And he puts a bomb through and he's like, glory to Kalechi or whatever. I was literally like, oh my God. And then what makes it even better is that the bomb isn't even good. So the guard just like strolls in and he's like, oh, another one of these like rubbish bombs again, is it? Like, oh.
He's
and
like
I was
making
like panicking.
fun of it.
Yeah. And he's like, this is a stupid old thing. I assumed from then on I was going to be defusing loads of bombs. Obviously that didn't turn out to be the case, but that was the like, I couldn't believe that when that came in. I thought that was really cool. Have you got one?
My favorite is it's a recurring moment, but it's the guy who like just keeps showing up with like really bad documents or like a passport he drew himself.
Yeah.
And he's like really friendly and really he's like nice to you. And he's like, he'll show up, he won't have his passport, he'd be like, denied. He'd be like, okay, like back tomorrow, like I'll get what I need. And he just keeps showing up. And then it turns out at the end, like eventually you do let him through, but then if you end up having to search him, he's like a drug dealer and he's like so. Oh, did you not see that?
No, I just let him in. I let him in. He gave me a token. I was like, cheers, mate. Good on you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a little token from him. But yeah, it turns out he's a drug dealer this whole time. But he's God. Like, you like accuse him of it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't. And then he's like, he keeps his whole like demeanor the whole time. And so anytime he showed up, I was like, oh, good. Here he is again. Here's my mate.
So Taylor on Blue Sky asked, did you guys take care of my man Georgie in your playthrough? Did you let him in?
I didn't let him through with the drugs. He just
likes a good time. Look at that place where they live. It's so depressing. They need a little pick me up.
He's bringing them across a checkpoint,
No, fair enough. I let him in. Obviously, I got the token whenever. I think I let him in my own game. Like the second time he showed up, I was like, this guy's funny. Bryony made him so he actually had the proper stuff. So it was like he turns up 6 or 7 times before she let him in. Curb Kip on our Discord, this isn't a question, they just said, for anyone who's intimidated by the amount of stuff the game throws at your table later in the game, I recommend trying the mobile version. And I looked that up, and instead of like having the desk as you'd expect, you like have things that you swipe through, which is quite cool that they did like another version of it. Yeah. Elodie on our Discord said, the art style of the game, specifically the color palette, is great. It's so simplified yet so easy to follow what objects are what, despite limited writing on the props. Obviously, I guess your mileage may vary on that, Joe. Was there anything that stuck out to you as a particularly clever or noteworthy in the sprite work? For me, it would be the queue of people. Like, it looks really good. And I think the surrounding context of them standing outside the office really helps. Because without that, I think it would just look like a bit of lint or something. But like the fact that they are little people and you can see them moving around, I thought was like really cool. Really, really good.
I liked, maybe not necessarily just because of the sprite, but just stamping is just fun.
Yeah.
Like in real life, in anything, maybe it's more like from the audio, but just the feeling of like stamping down, like that was always like super satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. Although, first of all, I was waiting for the stamp to pop back up before I was handing them the thing, and I was like, it's taking ages. And then I realized I could just like basically throw it at them, like after I stamped it.
And then later on, you need to like stamp the reason on as well. And
I
it's
haven't
like,
got that far yet. That's cool.
Oh, I feel like how much further did I get than you? But yeah, later on you get like, you have to like, if you deny, you have to give them a reason. And so it's another stamp you do for like their reason.
Okay.
So it's like deny, stamp is like,
yeah.
It's great.
I think
much
I
stamping.
did like 15 days on 2 platforms. I played both of them a bit differently as well. So I did quite a lot. There we go. Keys on Blue Sky says, absolutely love the art style. Curious if you guys could think of any more otherwise boring and mundane jobs or settings that could tell stories like this one. I think this is really hard. I guess the only things I can think of are things like this, like marking homework. Like that could be a game like this where
it
you
makes
just
me
go
think
through
of
and check it.
What Remains of Edith Finch, the fish level, when you're like chopping fish. I mean, obviously that's very different, but that's like another game where I think like the mundanity of work was a mechanic.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier on, and like all of my thought processes all led to like Overcooked, where it's like they've kind of done the fish thing, but at a much bigger scale. Even though it's like funny and it's comedy, it's still like you're trying to create a process under stress.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's very different, but there's a lot of things like obviously like lawn mowing simulator and like even power wash simulator where you're kind of But I guess they're kind of jobs that, obviously maybe not doing them every day, you get fed up, but they're often jobs that I would like to do for a day, or at least try out.
Yeah.
Like there's something inherently fun and satisfying about using a tool and spraying something clean, whereas this is obviously much more of a mundane kind of repetitive admin job for the point of it. And so I feel like you could kind of there's like loads of jobs like this that that could work for this.
What was that Aperture Desk Job game like? Did you play that?
Yeah.
Was that like this?
No, that was just straight cover. Like there was a very bit briefly at the beginning where you're like a toilet inspector, but it's not long until the toilet explodes and it just becomes like a fun game. Yeah.
Okay, this one is a bit longer. Boots76 on YouTube said, I had never heard of this game until you guys mentioned you were doing it for the podcast. I got sick and decided to buy it a couple of weeks ago. I immediately fell in love with the game and 100%ed it. All 20 endings, all 7 tokens, all 13 achievements. What? This game is incredible. It was dark but unique at the same time. Every time I finished it, it was on my mind until I picked it up again. I'm so excited for the episode and to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks, guys. Love the pod. And thank you for introducing me to what is now one of my favourite games. Like, mate, we didn't do anything. We just mentioned it. That thanks is not for us. That should go to Lucas Pope. That has nothing to do with
the
us.
three of us.
Yeah.
Ollie, me, and Lucas will get some credit. But I'm super curious. Like, what is like? I know it's like different. Gamers like different things, but I couldn't fathom like completing it and being like having a completionist mentality and like get all the endings and because I feel like at a certain point like the like morality quandrums aren't a thing anymore because you're just assumably you're looking at a guide for what you need to do for ending 3 and going through the process of doing it. So like I'm genuinely curious for anyone that has done this. Like, is it just the satisfaction of the process? Is that enough kind of driving you forward to want to do that?
Yeah, I could see that though. I could see like high score people could definitely get into this, especially if it tells you how many people you've done in a day. Endless mode. I guess endless mode must be there for a reason. So maybe people do really enjoy that process. There is
some randomness as well to the game. I don't know if you knew
the
that.
names. No, like the scenarios are usually the same, but the names will change as well. They also asked what would be a cool setting for a hypothetical sequel, which I don't have an answer for. But one thing which we'll never see, which I think is a shame, this game would be so good in VR. Could you imagine that? People coming in and you're like checking them, holding their passport up next to stamping the thing. Like it would be so good. But I don't think that'll ever happen because Lucas Pope doesn't want to do that. But
I don't know what the game would be and how it would make sense, but I think the sequel should be called like Papers No Thank You. I don't know what that would actually entail gameplay wise or how that would ever make sense, but I just like the idea of the sequel being called Papers No Thank You.
Well, he did that game Mars After Midnight, which was like similar-ish, but much more family friendly, where you're basically working in a nightclub or something and you can only let in certain aliens. And it's like, if he has 3 eyes and curly hair, then don't let him in. Like,
on the play date, and then you just slam the door on them.
Yeah. And okay, one more comment. Quasi Colors on YouTube said, "What did you think of the atmosphere? As personally, I felt it was kind of horrible, and it made me genuinely hate going back to the game." Which, like, I completely get that. I completely get it, but I thought it was cool. It's a very unique setting. Kind of reminded me of Disco Elysium, but nothing else.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying about like, oh, it's not fun. You're in work. Like, I think it's like, I think that's the atmosphere that they wanted to create. They could have made it bright and colourful and joyous. That wasn't the intention. But yeah, it sounds like maybe it kind of for them it went kind of maybe too far and pushed them away from it. Yeah. But people are going to have a different threshold to that.
Okay, shall we put it on the list?
Yep, let's put it on the list.
Did you know we have a Patreon? Maybe you're unsure what that is.
Patreon allows you to support us directly, and in return you get exclusive stuff. Access to our Discord server, behind-the-scenes content, and an exclusive podcast series.
Your support means we can up our production and continue making fun videos. You can join us at patreon.com/thebonuspoints. And it has a free trial too.
Woohoo! Okay, then. So this is going to be number 77 on the list. Ollie was just saying as we were bringing the list up that he has no idea where it's going to go. Now you're kind of looking at all of the potential places we could slot it in.
Still not sure.
Do you have any idea?
I think I'd probably put it around Harold Halibut, Edith Finch, Indica, which is 30.
Okay. Where's that?
About around 30.
Right.
It's around 30. I'm having fun with it, but I'm really conscious that I'm not playing the way that it was intended to be played by any stretch of the imagination.
See, and I was playing the way it was intended to be played, and I wasn't having fun with it.
Okay.
We're the opposite.
Yeah.
It's so hard because it's like I've always stuck with the so hard on like no, this was base it on my experience of the game and don't put too much focus on legacy or kind of outside factors. But it's just like I only had one experience of the game, and it was just tough. Like it was just like interacting with the game was just hugely difficult. But like there's so much of the game that like I liked, and like I really wish I was able just to kind of play it like the way that most people do, because I think I would have really liked it, maybe even more than you. But I just like it was. I was like every time a day ended, I was like, thank God. Like like, that was like difficult.
You can't guess what experience you would have had. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no guarantee
there's
that if it was easier for you, you would have liked it. like you can only talk about. Go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that like I think if someone writ out like a really good summary of what this game was and like what it was kind of trying to achieve, and like what it does with like mending kind of gameplay with decision making and like all the moral stuff, and like especially from when it was released, like how interesting and unique it was. Like I would have been like, wow, this sounds like this is like put it on the list based on that. I think it would be super high, like it's, and so like I really like appreciate what this game is, and I think it's like really cool, and I'd love to see like more games like this. But it's just my personal experience was like, kind of not what that summary would kind of be explaining.
Okay, well, look, I'm not judging you. Wherever you think you should put it, like all the stuff you said is perfectly valid. So, if they look, I'm not ever going to let this happen to you ever again. If they make a game that my best mate can't play, we're not putting it on the podcast list ever again. And I can't believe this has happened. It's mental this has happened. We'll have to check them in future. I didn't know why neither of us thought of this. Like, why do we not think of it?
Well, I didn't realize, as I said, like I thought the game was much more about like deny or reading dialogue is fine. Like I can read dialogue. I thought it was going to be
it's like made up words, made up names, made up places as well. It's like it's not helping anyone, is it? It's like
designed to be difficult for people with dyslexia.
Yeah.
So if I was purely, because I even though like I didn't enjoy the process, like I still did enjoy like a lot of the moral situations and like the interesting parts that pop up. Like I did still enjoy that. So it's not like I didn't have any fun, but I would probably be looking around sort of like Warcraft 2 Super Metroid area, which is like 50-51.
50. I think that is fine because you can't enjoy it, ironically, on paper and then not enjoy it in practice. Like, I think that's a fine place for it. I would even...
Yeah.
I mean, considering how much you love Wolfcraft, as you used to call it, maybe even below Warcraft would be fine. I think it's difficult because obviously I can't judge it the same way as you, but definitely would put it above Survival Kids, just even from a like standpoint of just the idea, like it goes above Survival Kids. So
Survival Kids was fun. I had a good time with Survival Kids.
Yeah, but Papers, Please is way cooler. Like
I know,
way cooler, a million times cooler.
Papers, Please is probably one of the coolest games that we've done on the whole podcast.
So. I think so.
Like, so yeah, hopefully I've kind of explained like why it's kind of probably lower than people expected. And, you know, not everyone, judging by the comments we got in, but I think most people would have probably wanted it higher and expected it to be higher. But the rules with the list, as I say, is we're not ranking what we think is the best game. Like if I was, you know, say if I worked at an outlet and I was given it to like review, like I would have just had to have said, oh, I can't review this. You know, I wouldn't have given it like 3 out of 10, you know, because that would have been unfair also. So, but that's like, this is what like the format of the list, because I think that's what makes the most interesting conversations. And it's why you can have, you know, games that most people would think are almost objectively, you know, better games lower on the list because, hey, not our genre, you know, like I think that makes it more fun because anyone can make a list of the best games, but no one apart from us can make a list of our favorite games.
I wonder, and it's going to be a completely answerless question right now, if there's a website that checks for stuff like that. And if there is, I will put it on the screen now and I will put it in the show notes of the podcast. Because we can't have this happening again. I feel really bad that this has happened. I feel really awful.
No,
even though you picked the game, you made your
bed,
bed, but I still feel bad
also,
this has happened.
This is the, like, I've been gaming my entire life. This is the only time it's been a case where I'm like, oh, this is a game that I can't play because of it. Like,
I mean, as far as you know, you may have been like, oh, this is great. And like, no,
there might have been games that I've enjoyed less, maybe, but like it's something I've never even like considered affecting like my gaming time. And like I can read, like, you know, I can read books fine. Like it's not like, oh, it's like anything with like text heavy, you know, like I'm fine with that. You know, I really liked what's his name? Black on his name. Phoenix Wright. Like I love Phoenix Wright, and that's a book with pictures in. You know, like, and that was fine. It's really this very specific format of game for what I have with dyslexia that made it really difficult.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, well look, it's at 52 on the list, 1 under Warcraft 2, 1 above Survival Kids, and I think that's a perfectly fine place for it. So yeah.
Cool.
Would you like to hear what's coming up?
Yes, not much.
No,
in terms of games at least, but lots of fun stuff though.
Yeah, we're done for games for this year, but on December 13th is the Christmas quiz, which should be fun. No, it will be fun. We'll be filming it in person. And on December 27th, we've got Game of the Year. So I'm frantically playing loads of games trying to catch up.
What are you playing?
I've got Animal Well and Astrobot. Jumping between them. That's what I'm currently doing. And then once one of them is done, or I've had enough, Stalker 2. That's my current plan.
Oh, cool. Oh, nice. I thought that was going to be a me one, not a you one.
No, I want to give it a go. I heard a lot about it, so I want to at least give it a try. So that's. So
I'm really excited about it, but thinking like that might be one I might let cook until the new year.
I was thinking that patches and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently it came in quite hot, so I might I might wait to I mean, would that be a bit behind the scenes here? Would that be a good podcast game?
I might have another idea for it. So we'll see.
Ooh, okay. We'll see together, whatever that ends up being. But yeah, if you want to kind of hear Ollie's thoughts on Animal Well or Astrobot, we always discuss any other non-podcast games that we're playing on our other podcast we do called Extra Credit.
Yeah, which just had a really action-packed episode, actually, isn't it? People really like that one with the Metal Gear. Not to toot my own horn, but the Metal Gear Rising story about my embarrassment in my early 20s went down very well. But yeah, I mean, for now, that's us. That's all we got.
Cool, awesome. But rest assured, we will be back in the new year with games. So we'll probably announce kind of just across our kind of socials on the Discord, and probably do a community post as well here on YouTube if you're on YouTube. So if you want to kind of know what games in advance, if you are someone that does play along with us, just kind of keep an eye out around the places that we are if you want to kind of hear what we're playing in advance and join us. Yeah, Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky, so follow us on there. Not on Twitter. We dumped it. So a little bit more behind the scenes. I don't anything to do with like social media or Discord or anything. Like that's Ollie arranging all of that and our amazing mods as well. So to me that it doesn't affect me in any way.
No.
It's like,
and I get the questions from there and bring them to you. It's like I gather the things from there and I bring them to you as well, so you don't even have to look at them.
It's another social media platform to forget that we exist on it.
Yeah, it's a good one though. Look, mate, Blue Sky, people
do.
following us. Like of all the like Twitter replacements, Blue Sky is the one that people like. So
I have heard people speaking positively about it.
yeah,
Seems to be
4J, follow us on there, mate.
Anyway, that's the end of this podcast here. So yeah, next one, Christmas quiz. So definitely don't miss that one. What's the score so far? Is it 2-1 to you? Is that the right score?
Yeah, 2-1 to me.
So this is my chance to either get things level or for that mountain to keep growing.
Yeah, or for this to be the final Christmas quiz and you'd be like, we don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, which I'm worried about will happen because the one I won, it was a photo finish, so and the others haven't been as close. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you don't miss that. But yeah, apart from that, that's the end of this podcast here. Cheers for watching or listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.